I do think that when we project in the SEC, a team that historically, at least right now, that is constantly left out when we're previewing the 2024 season has got to be the Oklahoma Sooners. Is that right? I mean, is it right to leave out Oklahoma when it comes to our preview in 2024? Probably not. They're still a really massive brand. They got a lot of really good players that we'll talk about here. Billy Bowman coming back, who had 6 picks last year, had 3 touchdowns to boot. They got a lot of really good players defensively. There are 2 areas, though, that I think that Oklahoma right now is not good enough to compete in the SEC. Now, they will argue, and I know that Oklahoma fans will argue that point. But as someone who's covered the SEC for some time now, I don't think that they understand the week in, week out gauntlet that they're about to have to go through. And by the way, their schedule is not easy. Now, look, there is a lot of production that returns. Okay, they got some good running backs. They got the number 1 running back in the country coming in as well. But Gavin Sawchuk returns. Okay, he had 744 yards last year, 9 touchdowns. Jaleel Farouk returns. He had 45 catches, almost 700 yards, and 2 TDs. Andrell Anthony also returns 27 catches, 429 yards. I do think that they have some pretty decent skill position players. I don't know if they have that guy. I just really don't know if Oklahoma right now has that dude on the outside that scares you. Now, what they do have, okay, and what they're going to have to replace is Drake Stoops, who had 84 catches a year ago, right around 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. They got to replace that. Now, we'll talk about some of their additions in a minute. They do go and get a massive addition in Deion Burks through the transfer portal. I'm really worried about this team offensively. And I know, again, like I said, Oklahoma fans will disagree. But they had to go in the portal and pretty much grab all offensive linemen that they could. They go into the portal, they grab 4 offensive linemen. Look, they grab Hatchett from Washington. They grab Spencer Brown from Michigan State. They add Weewoo, okay, from North Texas. They add Michael Tranquin from USC. Guys, that's not going to work well. Like, I legitimately don't think that adding that many offensive linemen is going to work well. I think that you, especially at that position, a position that I played, cohesiveness is a big thing. I think that we've seen when teams in the SEC specifically have tried to overhaul their a position group, especially up front, it has not worked well unless you've gotten guys like what Ole Miss has done. I do not believe, at least in my God's honest opinion, I don't know if Oklahoma right now from an offensive standpoint is ready to come into this league and compete up front along that offensive line. I'm not saying any of these guys aren't good. I think going and getting Weewoo from North Texas is a big-time pickup. I think going and getting Spencer Brown from Michigan State, let's see what he can do. I think getting Hatchett from Washington, it's going to be a good piece. I do think that being together, being a cohesive unit is a big-time question. We've seen teams in the SEC try to overhaul a position group, and majority of the time it fails. You'll see something right here. If you don't believe that I'll even attack, but even talk about LSU, a team that I cover as well. LSU tried to do it in the transfer portal last year at DB, and they fell flat on their face in doing it. I don't know if you do that the same way on the offensive line if you're Oklahoma, but Jackson Arnold, who's going to be the quarterback, with the inexperience in college that he has, a first-time starter going into the SEC, I know that he's a 5-star guy. I know that he has all the tools. My question becomes, with an offensive line that is not experienced all with one another, now you have other pieces in there as well. I don't know if Jackson Arnold, it's fair for Jackson Arnold to be the guy that bailed you out. I thought Dillon Gabriel a lot last year bailed you out with things that he did with his legs. Can Jackson Arnold do that? I think is going to be a very big deal that he's going to have to accomplish. But I just don't think I think it's going to be a struggle for Oklahoma in this league offensively. Now, they do go out and add Deion Burks, okay, the wide receiver, who had 47 catches last year, 629 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Can he replace a Drake Stoops? If he can, that would be a big-time addition. I think running the ball in this league is going to be much tougher on them, though, and it's going to put more pressure on Jackson Arnold. Let's talk about Jackson Arnold for a minute. I know that he had times last year where he played, even in the bowl game, that a lot of people were out on him. I do think when it comes to him that he does have all the tools and ability. I just don't know if he has the weapons around him that is going to take him to the next level. Quite honestly, I think I think that he's going to have to elevate his play so much for this team to get to 9 to 10 wins. If Oklahoma goes into the season and gets 9 and 10 wins year one in the SEC, they have overachieved based off of what I see right now with the personnel that they have. I like Jalil Farouk. I like him a lot. I think he's a really good receiver. I like the addition of Deion Burks. Think he's a really good receiver. But we have seen in this conference, if that's what you're going to have on the outside, guys, it's not going to work. You need explosive playmakers. Now, I do think in the running game, they return a lot. They got Gavin that's coming back. He had 120 carries, 744 yards, and 9 touchdowns. They add Tatum, who was the number 1 back in the country. But running the football in this league right now is not completely conducive. There's a lot of teams in this league that can score points. You know, for example, man, like you look down their schedule, which we'll go and talk about in just a moment here. They did not get any favors with it. Now, they got some really good matchups. They got some matchups that I think that they can win. But like you go to Death Valley, that's not an easy place to play. And I love Oklahoma coming here. I love them as a blue blood coming here to play. I just don't think that they have the dudes. Now, they're going to argue that. And I am fully prepared for Oklahoma fans to come in here right now and argue me with that. The bottom line is, though, you cannot continue to recruit at the skill position and the offensive line the way that you're recruiting and think that it's going to be conducive to wins and success along the offense. Jackson Arnold's great, but he can't do everything for you in this league. You know, the comp that I would give, now stay with me, not a comp with them in reference to them being the type of player, but do you remember the Bryce Young year in 2022? And everybody was like, well, Bryce just doesn't have the dudes on the outside that can help him. That's Alabama. And the reason that they did not win their division in 22 was because they didn't. Now, they were able to win it because they played a great defense. We'll get to that in a minute. Defensively, they were fantastic. I don't know if you're that great defensively that you can come in and win the league. But if you want to get where you want to go, if Oklahoma wants to be a team that constantly sees themselves in the college football playoff, you're going to have to get better personnel on offense. Let's transition to the defense. Listen, they got a lot of returners on defense, and I do think this defense going into the league has arguably got to be one of the bigger slept-on units in the conference. Look, you bring back Danny Stutzman, you bring back Ethan Downs, you got DeJohn Terry, the big nose tackle, Billy Bowman, who I think is the most underrated defender in this league right now. Last year, he had 63 tackles, 6 picks, 3 touchdowns. And Jared Canuck. Here's the problem with them defensively. I think they got here's the positives. I think that they got a lot of dudes. I think they got a lot of dudes that are going to play on Sundays. You add in a guy in the interior like David Stone, I think he can instantly come in and play for you. I don't know if he'll start, how quickly he'll start. I do think he can come in and play. The problem that I have with them defensively is they did not do a great job at getting after the quarterback. They played tenaciously against Texas in a rivalry game, and I think that if you get that type of defense, they can compete with anybody in this league. The problem is they didn't even have a guy last year or a guy returning that had over 5 sacks. Do they have the guy? Do they have the dude that can get to the quarterback that much? Now, in a Venable system, we saw this a lot of times at Clemson. They are going to come after the quarterback by committee. They're going to do different things schematically to get after the quarterback. I think that they're going to keep – Oklahoma is going to keep themselves in every single game because of the studs and the dudes that they have on defense. Don't think it's going to matter, though, because ultimately I do think that this defense that will keep them in majority of their games and quite honestly might win them some games that maybe we don't expect. I think it's going to be so overshadowed at times by the inability to succeed on offense. Here's another thing. They brought in Casey Thompson, the quarterback from FAU. If you're a college football fan, you should know who Casey Thompson is by now. He's been all over the place to back up Jackson Arnold. I don't know if if Arnold struggles, do you go to experience? Do you go to Casey Thompson? I highly doubt it. I just don't like what they have on the offensive side of the ball. I think that there's what Oklahoma fans are not calculating for is the ability, or the toughness that it has or that it takes to be in this league every single week. Now, we talked about that we were going to talk about their schedule, and I'm going to pull it up right here. Okay, let me pull it up, and we'll actually just bring it up on screen. Guys, can we bring this up on screen? Can we bring this? Yeah, can we bring their schedule up on screen? Okay, thank you. Just let me know. All right, y'all got it? All right, roll with it. All right, this is Oklahoma's schedule for next year. Now, look, they open up the year next year with Temple, Houston, Tulane. They got a relatively easy schedule when it comes to starting the season. They're going to be 3-0. I like Tulane. I know that they got a new coaching staff, but they're going to win the first 3 games of their schedule. I don't think Houston's good enough. I love Willie Fritz. I love Tulane, and I love what they're doing over there as well. But the bottom line for me is pretty simple. Okay, can we do that? There we go. There we go. There's the schedule. It's a little bit better. The Temple Owls is who they have in week 1, the Houston Cougars, Tulane, Green Wave. They got Tennessee Volunteers at home. Let's stop right there for just a moment. I think that this is what starts the true test for them. Clearly, I don't know if they can beat Tennessee right now. I am not convinced that even though Tennessee is going into Oklahoma, I don't know if Nico goes off. I do think that is a potential game that is a toss-up that they can lose. Considering that game is at home, I would give them a nod. I'd say, you know what, man, I'm going to give you the nod, for you to win that game, because I do think Tennessee's got a lot of things that they got to figure out themselves. But here's where things start to get very interesting for them, and why I think that this is just going to be one of the toughest schedules, and is one of the toughest schedules in all of the SEC. So after that Tennessee game, they go to Jordan-Hare. By the way, Oklahoma fans, I don't give two Rudy Poos how good or bad you think Auburn is. Let me tell you something from experience. What I know from experience is that Auburn, you going there is arguably one of the toughest places to play. I'm going to give you another toss-up game there too, because I don't think that you understand that every team that goes in there, Alabama, who was a playoff team last year, Georgia, who should have been a playoff team last year, both of them struggled going on the road to Auburn. I get that it's a rivalry game. It doesn't matter. Auburn has got to be one of the top 2 or 3 toughest places to play in all of the SEC. So you have a bye week, then you play Texas in Dallas, you go to the Cotton Bowl. I do think that Texas is going to want to get a little bit of revenge. So even if, let's just say, from Auburn to Tennessee to Tulane to Houston to Temple, let's say that they win all 5 of those games. Let's look at the rest of their schedule. They play Texas. I think that that's a loss. They play South Carolina. I think that's a win. So they're 6-1. They got to go to Ole Miss. I think that that's a loss. That's 2 losses. Maine Bears, obviously, that's 7 wins right there. They go to Missouri. And I got to be real with you. I don't think that they can beat Missouri right now. I don't think that they have the offensive explosion to go into Como and beat the Missouri Tigers. Then they have an off week. They got Alabama at home. You do not have the personnel that they do. I think that that's another loss. And then you go to Death Valley. I also think that there's a loss there because I just don't think that you're talented enough and that you're good enough to beat those teams. Guys, the ceiling for them right now, I think is 8-4. I legitimately believe that. But I also think that they have a very low floor. I think that they're a team that's going to be 7-5, 8-4. Maybe they can find a way, if this offense finds a way to get better, they can find a way to get to 9-3. But contending, being a contender year one in the SEC, being a guy or being a team that thinks that they can be in the playoff in year one, I think is arguably one of the biggest laughable things that I've heard from Oklahoma media and fans. You are not coming into this league with that schedule and getting to the playoff. It's not happening. I don't think that you're better than Texas. I don't think you're better than LSU. I don't think that you're better than Alabama. I don't think that you're better than Ole Miss. I don't think that you're better than Missouri. And even if you beat one, maybe 2 of those teams, I still think that you got 2 toss-ups against Tennessee, and I think that you have a toss-up against Auburn, having to go there. Now, if that game was at home and you were playing Auburn at home, well, I'd probably give you the nod there. I like Oklahoma in the league. I think that they are the most slept-on team right now because we legitimately just don't look at them as a contender. They're going to be a solid team, especially defensively. 1,000% they're going to be a team defensively that you got to contend with. But for me, I just can't see it. All right. Let's get to a couple of these comments. Yes. Malik Neighbors with a 4.35 40-yard dash. I see y'all. Y'all hit me up on Twitter. So happy for that kid, man. So happy for him. Paul Sub says Casey Thompson, Mr. Glass Bones. Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing, though, man. The only reason you go and get Casey Thompson is because he knows that he's going to be a backup. He also knows, and you want a veteran presence that if Jackson Arnold gets hurt or, God forbid, something happens where he's just not performing, you might have somebody that has experience, has been in college football, that can help you maybe get a win or 2. It's not going to matter. It's not at that point. If you go to Casey Thompson, it's not if you're going to lose, it's by how much. I don't think that they have enough firepower offensively to beat Texas. I just don't. And I think Texas is going to want some revenge. Now, let me say this, because I think that this gets overshadowed when we talk about Brent Venables. I think Brent Venables has done a pretty damn good job. Look, they go, 6-7 in year one. They have to completely rebuild what they're doing at Oklahoma. He returns. He goes 10-3 this past season. I think he's going to have to get, for Oklahoma fans, he's going to have to get some grace. And I think for national college football fans, he needs some grace. Really, I do. But if Brent wants to be successful, if he ultimately wants to be highly successful in this league, he's going to have to get better along the offensive line. He's going to have to get better at the skill position out wide. Deion Burks is a really good addition. I'm not saying that it's not. There's a lot of great corners in this league. There's a lot of great defenses in this league. The reason why historically, and I understand that Michigan won the national title this year, but they were built like an SEC team too. Defensive line, offensive line. You don't have the dudes up front to win. Now, I think David Stone is a guy that can come in instantly and play and be a wrecking ball and be a disruptor. Defensively, they're going to be fine. Defensively, they're going to be – I do think that they'll be in every game. But if you give up 21, 24 points, hell, even if, God forbid, you give up 30 points, can Jackson Arnold lead you to get you there? I don't think so. Oh, by the way, Jeff Lebby's not there anymore. And they argued me. Oklahoma fans argued me up and down about Jeff Lebby. Guys, I just want to tell you the truth. Jeff Lebby might be one of the best offensive play callers in the entire country. Like, it's not even close. No, you want to know why you had offensive stalls? Because you don't have the personnel. Another truth, Dillon Gabriel should still be your starting quarterback. I'd feel much better about where you're going if Gabriel was still there. You got too many question marks. You go into the portal and get 4 offensive linemen. I don't like that. I don't like that you have to overhaul in the portal at one position group. I mean, man, look, I'm not trying to talk about the kid from North Texas and Wee Woo. But Wee Woo has never seen the D-line and the dudes, then like he just hasn't. He just hasn't. Neither has Hatchett, the kid from Washington. Not in a week in, week out basis, they haven't. I like Oklahoma a lot. I just don't think that they have the firepower. They're going to hate me for saying it, but sometimes the truth hurts. Ryan on Facebook says, take at least 2 years for Oklahoma to get recruits they need to compete at a high level. Here's a problem I have with that, Ryan. I vehemently, I kind of somewhat disagree with you. You know, here's what happened, at least with me, okay? My man is moving. Here's what happened with me, okay? And this is what I look at. 2 years ago, Oklahoma fans in a Twitter space, which I don't ever go in them anymore now. I think that Twitter spaces are highly toxic. 2 years ago, Oklahoma fans try to convince me that once they got that SEC patch on their shoulder, that they would get better in recruiting. No, what's going to happen here is if there's a guy in Oklahoma, now that the SEC has a footprint and these teams have a footprint in that state more now than they ever have, it's going to be more of a battle for you. You can argue that all you want. But I promise you, recruiting in this league is a juggernaut that you're not doing good. I mean, guys, you're in year 3 of Brent Venables. You're going into year 3 of Brent Venables. What more do you need for him to get an establishment offensively? He had one of the best play callers in the country in Jeff Lebby. I'm not saying it's not going to work with Brent Venables. I think you need to give him time. You're not recruiting at a high enough level at that skill position that it's going to work for you. Now, they bring in Tatum. He's a really good back. You're not bringing enough good offensive linemen in. You're not bringing in top elite wideouts. By the way, you signed a kid in Daniels who is from my hometown in Franklinton. And I think the kid can play. But I do think that with all due respect to the kid, I think there's a reason that LSU passes on him. It's a massive reason why. And as of right now, we're watching two of the top 3 wide receivers in this year's draft, and Malik Nabers and Brian Thomas, who are